Continuing into the effects of the Great Depression in the seventh lesson of Unit 2. I think you can kind of pick up on what I'm laying down here with the effects. Make sure you're understanding the effects of the Great Depression in this. And you're also going to see that capitalism kind of poking its head in here a little bit too. So, going into today and why it matters is I want you to get two things: the effects of the Great Depression, and then I'm going to introduce you to our new president after Herbert Hoover. His name is FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And I'm going to start introducing how he is going to change capitalism. So, why does all this matters is because even during this time of when life sucked a lot during the Great Depression, people never gave up. So, that's kind of worth noting in today. Okay, so no matter how hard life gets, just don't ever give up. That's how you really fail. But you're going to notice that Herbert Hoover is going to stick to his guns. He's not going to change capitalism, and this is going to come back to bite him. So going into the effects, you're going to see that men are going to take this Great Depression the hardest. And this is not a gender thing, but this is a time thing. In the 1930s, men were still primarily the major breadwinners of the family. And when they don't have a job and they're not bringing an income in, you're going to notice that they are going to feel kind of like they lost their place in society, if you will. You're also going to see people are going to voluntarily work less hours to spread more hours out to other people, just so everybody's still getting some piece of the pie, if not the whole pie, if you will. What women are going to do and what men are also going to do, they're going to stop having children. They're going to have less kids because kids are expensive. And you're going to notice that children, where they're gaining a lot of ground in the roaring 20s, going to high school and so on and so forth, continuing their education, they're not going to. They're going to drop out and they're going to get jobs because every little bit would help with family living. So I'm going to first start with the effects of the rural America. And you're going to notice that farmers' lives did not change a whole lot because their life already sucked in the 20s, talking about losing their farms, living on credit, if you will. Now, it's worth noting, not every farmer failed because some people were still able to make it. It's just that ones that jumped on the World War I train, buying all they could and trying to make money off of the demand of the government. But during this time, you're going to notice that prices of crops are going to bottom out. And they really didn't see much difference there. But you can see in this picture of the migrant mother just kind of the worry and how the children are basically wearing rags because they're just getting by however they could. But you can see that stat there: over 1 million farmers lost their land during this time, the 1930 to 1934, and that's a lot. That's a lot, a lot, a lot. So where this is all going to get worse is during this freak phenomena known as the Dust Bowl. So some factors that are going into this. People are going to notice that they're going to overfarm their land. They're going to basically tear up all what's called a buffer crop, and they're going to plant more of whatever they're growing. And by doing this, it's going to cause erosion to happen because the root system of different crops keep all the top dirt there, topsoil there. Also, it's going to be a time of drought, meaning there is very little participation that's going to precipitation, that's going to be falling during this time to keep the ground moist and keep it there. And also, there's going to be these freak windstorms that would just pop up. And you can see in that picture, that'd be scary if you saw that. So, this is going to cause all of this valuable farmland just to be blown away. And this is going to make life very, very hard now for the farmers, if you will. So, this is going to cause them to pick up and move because they've basically have had enough. You can see the states there that were impacted the most. Here in Iowa, not so much, but we still face some of these things. Which leads to the first question. Along with the Great Depression, what other challenges did the farmers face? So back to city living, you're going to notice that depression in the cities is where it's going to be felt the most. You're going to notice that unemployment rates are going to skyrocket. You're going to notice that wages were going to be then cut because capitalism always has to prevail. People have to make a profit, or capitalism, or they're going to go out of business pretty much. So they're going to notice that lifestyle changes are going to happen along with it for the workers. So they're going to get their meals from bread lines or soup lines, or whatever you want to call it. And you can see in these two pictures how many people they were serving. So these were usually ran by like Goodwill, Salvation Army, or maybe even a church every once in a while. They would basically just make a big vat of basically flavored water or broth, and then you'd get a loaf of bread, and that would why they're called soup lines or bread lines. And this is how people lived. You're going to notice also they're going to go dumpster diving, which is, finding whatever they could. But all that fun of the Roaring '20s was now gone. People were spending their savings. People were whatever they could were getting by. And it goes without saying they weren't buying any of the new technology or things that came out in the '20s. So where this is also going to start impacting people is when they have to leave their homes. So people are choosing to or being forced to move from their homes down to smaller, lower rent shacks or apartments or whichever. And where this is going to case in point is this bottom picture of what's called a Hooverville. So kind of a jab and fun at Hoover. People are going to be making, for lack of a better term, like shacks out of anything and everything that they could to live. All this was free compared to what they were paying. And this is also going to inspire other, I guess, jabs at Hoover and what little he did to help ways of life. And you can see the list of things there. And if you were to Google it too, there's a lot more: Hoover blankets, Hoover flags, and so on and so forth. So question number 2, how did people get by in the cities during the Great Depression? So what Herbert Hoover did, he knew he could not change capitalism. He knew that as soon as he, as the government, ordered money to go into the economic system, capitalism would fail. And he is correct and 100% on that. So what he did was manipulate the factors that he could control. So what did he do? He lowered income taxes, or personal taxes that we pay every April. Now, people weren't paying a whole lot to begin with, but this was still something. He also lowered interest rates. He was trying to rebound the whole idea of credit. Okay, by paying less back, maybe people might borrow more. And then lastly, as a last ditch effort, he hired people to do things that the government needed to do anyways. Okay, so case in point, the Hoover Dam. Not called the Hoover Dam when he started it. He's not that egotistical. However, what it was is a hydroelectric plant. So all of this is damming the Colorado River. And inside this, it's turning turbines that's making electricity for basically the western half of the United States. So why this is all such a big deal is because he's keeping capitalism pure. Okay. And as kind of his last ditch effort, I guess you would say, all those really wealthy people that we talked about in lesson 6, I think it was. Well, anyways, he is going to urge them to donate to charity, give whatever he could to voluntarily help people. And you're going to notice that it just didn't work. There wasn't enough numbers of people donating to match the people that were in need. So this is what he did, and it was not enough, according to American popular opinion. So all of this is going to fail. So he knew that he could not change economy, or change the capitalist economy. And I cannot stress that enough. And keep in mind, with his business background, he was right on. Okay. Even in 2022, where I'm filming this or recording this lecture, the government is very deeply embedded still into our economy. And what's ironic is that most historians would say that if there was ever an economic mind to get us out of the Great Depression during this time, it would probably be Herbert Hoover. So where this is all going to kind of meet its end is where Herbert Hoover is going to order that World War I vets should not receive their bonus. So, backtracking a little bit, in 1932, there's going to be a group of World War I vets that are going to make their way to Washington, and they are going to say, or they're going to demand a bonus that was promised to them for serving in World War I. Now, it was not supposed to be paid until 1945, but obviously they need it, so they're going to go and try and get it. And Herbert Hoover is going to call for the Army to sweep out all of these vets in Washington, D.C. So where this is all going to get even worse is that Congress, seeing the demand, is going to try to vote everything in. Sorry for that bell, but they're going to try to vote this bonus to be paid. And Herbert Hoover is going to say, nope. And he vetoed it because, again, that's not capitalism. So, because of all these bad things that Herbert Hoover is going to basically be associated with, he is going to get rocked in the 1932 election. And this new president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, is going to be elected in a landslide. And he is immediately going to say, we're going to put people to work. He's going to hire people as the government, and he is going to change capitalism. So, more about that in the next lesson. But the last question to finish up this is Herbert Hoover believed in the government intervention to get out of the Great Depression. True or false?